for sinister trucker tales exposed. Spine-chilling encounters with the unknown that haunted drivers. Lisa sat in her cramped kitchen, sipping cold coffee that had long gone bitter. Her brother Jake, the long-haul truck driver, had always called her late at night after long days on the road. But tonight was different. The static crackled through the phone, drowning out the familiar sounds of her children's laughter. "You won't believe this, Lisa," Jake said, his voice trembling. "I saw something out there." Every nerve in her body stood at attention as he recounted his tales. Unmarked vehicles lurking behind the shadows of the interstate, their headlights glowing with an ominous aura. Ghostly figures appearing at the roadside, beckoning for him to stop. "I swear it's like they know things they shouldn't see things about us." Her heart raced, the room feeling colder with each story, weaving a chilling tapestry of dread that wrapped around her like a vice. "We're safe here, right?" she whispered, but doubt planted its seed, sprouting horror in the depths of her mind. Days later, the storm clouds gathered over Pine Grove as Lisa served coffee to weary truckers at the diner, her hands trembling slightly. A flash of lightning illuminated the diner's window, revealing an unmarked vehicle parked nearby. Recognition struck her, a carbon copy of Jake's dreadful warnings. Jacob's words echoed in her head, each detail amplifying her anxiety. She snuck glances outside, chills racing down her spine. Could this be one of those vehicles he warned her about? The air was thick with fear now, and the diner, once a comforting refuge, suddenly felt like a trap. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the days turned to weeks, the unmarked vehicle became a constant presence outside the diner, creeping into her thoughts at night. Jake was late returning from his latest delivery. Panic began clawing its way up her throat. Locals whispered about strange happenings, unaccounted deliveries, and roundabout stories of visitors that never checked in. Lisa's instincts screamed. Each voice she heard felt suspect, their amiable facades wearing thin under her glare. Then the news came. Jake was missing, vanished off the grid. With every ounce of maternal fury and terror, Lisa knew she had to act. She had to preserve the fragile thread of safety for her kids. Her real fight began. She stormed to the police station, met with stares of indifference. Their disbelief prickled her skin, fanning the flames of her fears. The shadows in Pine Grove deepened, darkness curling in the corners of her home, tightening around her heart. In the dead of night, Lisa awoke to sounds that made the air grow thick with dread. A figure loomed outside her window, gliding in and out of the shadows just like Jake described. Panic surged in her chest, locking her lungs tight. "Mom, what's wrong?" her youngest murmured, still half asleep. She couldn't look away. Was it the specter of the trucker tales? Or something far more sinister stalked her now? Breath hitching, Lisa stood frozen, gripping her phone, mind racing. She could run or confront the terror piercing the veil of her small-town life. The air crackled with anticipation, shadows stretching as she moved towards the door. Just as realization settled upon her, a loud crash shattered the silence of the night. The front door flew open, revealing a figure cloaked in shadows. "Lisa, you need to run." And in that moment, she understood that nothing, absolutely nothing, was as it seemed. Lisa's heart raced as the familiar voice echoed in her ears, a voice she hadn't heard in what felt like an eternity. The figure blocking the doorway took a step closer, a mix of fear and relief coursing through her body. It was Jake, or at least it looked like him, though something felt off. Black smudges stained his clothes, and his face wore an expression of terror she had never seen before. "Jake?" she gasped, barely able to believe her eyes. "Listen, you have to trust me," he urged, rushing into the dim light of the living room. "They're looking for me, for us." "What do you mean? Who's looking for you?" Lisa's voice was shaky, the fear twisting her stomach tighter. The blinds rattled against the windows, the wind howling outside as if urging her to run. "The people in that damn van," he shouted, glancing nervously over his shoulder. "I saw things out there. Things no one should see. Just before they took me, they covered my eyes," and his voice trailed off, leaving a chilling silence hanging between them. "Jake, you're scaring me," she pleaded, trying to swallow down the lump in her throat. "What did you see?" "They're not human, Lisa. They're something else. They showed me," he faltered, hands trembling. "I had to find a way to warn you. I thought they got you too. But you have to get the kids and leave tonight." His urgency ignited her instincts. The fear coursed through her, dragging her between disbelief and instinctive fear for her children. "The kids, where are they?" she whispered. "Sleeping. You need to move now." His voice carried the weight of a desperate command as he grabbed her wrist, pulling her towards the hallway. As they rushed to the kids' room, Lisa's mind raced. What had happened to him out there? What did these beings want? Just as they reached the door, another crash reverberated through the house, louder and more insistent than the first. "It's them," he hissed, eyes wide with terror. Just then, the power flickered, plunging the house into darkness but for the slivers of moonlight sneaking in through the windows. In the enveloping blackness, Lisa's heart thundered in her chest. Had they come for Jake? For her? "Mom!" The soft voice of her youngest broke through the chaos, and Lisa felt a surge of determination. "We can't let them in." She turned to find Jake poised at the window, eyes narrowed. "Stay close," she ordered, her voice firm despite the tremor that ran through her limbs. Jake's posture shifted, as if he sensed something. "Guard the kids. Don't breathe a word of this." Before she could respond, he darted past her and out the front door, leaving her paralyzed with uncertainty. She clutched the doorknob, torn between following him or sealing her home against whatever prowled in the night. Suddenly, shadows flitted past the edges of the porch light, gliding toward her. A cold dread unfurled in her gut as she registered the shapes two figures lurking just beyond the edge of the yard, their faces obscured but their presence unmistakable. "Jake!" she screamed, fear slicing through her like ice. But the shadows and her brother were gone. Lisa shoved the door closed, heart pounding wildly. She turned to her children, their sleepy eyes now wide with fear. "We need to hide," but as she whispered the words, the lights flickered one last time and went out. She felt the oppressive weight of silence descend upon them, thick and suffocating, as if the walls themselves were closing in. And then they came a knocking, slow and deliberate, echoing through the darkness. "Let us in," a whisper beckoned, smooth as silk but cold as ice. Desperation clawed at her as the realization settled heavily. Whatever was out there had something in mind for them. Something that began with her brother's disappearance and twisted into something far more sinister. She had to make a choice, either confront the shadows outside or take her chances with whatever lurked in the darkness of her own home. Lisa held her breath, heart pounding in her ears. The voice grew louder, more insistent. "Let us in, Lisa," and in that moment, the chilling possibility nestled deep in her chest. Maybe some truths were better left buried. What if, in her quest to find Jake, she had unwittingly invited the real darkness inside? The knocking continued, a rhythmic thud that rattled Lisa's bones. Each echo seemed to pull at the corners of her sanity, whispering fears she didn't want to confront. Gathering herself, she guided her children, their small hands trembling in hers, towards the back of the house. "She'll listen," she whispered, hoping to drown out the ominous sound. But the whispers outside grew louder. "You must let us in." Lisa, her heart raced as she glanced at the front door, her stomach tightening in fear. It felt as if the air around her thickened, saturated with dread. The shadows danced along the walls, almost alive, mocking her efforts of escape. "Mama, are they gonna get us?" her youngest asked, tiny voice breaking, filling the oppressive silence. "No, baby, no. We're going to be okay," she lied, forcing a smile that felt foreign on her face. She led the children to the kitchen, her pulse quickening as they passed by the door. She motioned for them to sit on the floor, hidden behind the counter, praying the darkened space would keep them safe. But her mind was racing. Where was Jake? Was he all right? And who were those things lurking outside? The knocking came again. Louder. Lisa, you know us. We just want to come inside. It felt like a personal plea, each word slicing through her, taunting her to relent. But she pushed those thoughts aside, forcing her focus back to her kids. She gripped their hands tighter, willing her heart to slow. Moments stretched like hours, and then silence. Just when she thought it was over, she heard a muffled whisper behind her. They're gone. For now. Lisa wheeled around, eyes wide with shock. Jake. There he stood, disheveled and wild-eyed. You can't stay here. They're looking for a way in. We have to move. What do you mean? Who are they? She gasped, feeling a swell of anger and relief collide inside her. There's no time. Just listen to me. He pulled her up, urgency radiating from him. They can get in through anything. This place. He cast a frantic eye around, panicking. We need to leave. Now. She froze, the whirlwind of emotions threatening to drown her. What about the kids? They'll be safest with us. Just trust me. He insisted, dragging her towards the back door. The powers flickered back on, illuminating the kitchen and casting long shadows that stretched menacingly across the floor. Stay where you are. A voice barked from outside, gravelly and cold, chilling her to the bone. Lisa's breath hitched as she turned to Jake. They followed you. His face paled, and he backed against the wall. They'll know if we don't move. We need to stay one step ahead. The children huddled closer to her, eyes wide and trembling. Please don't let them take us. In a split second, Lisa's instincts kicked in. All right, we'll go. But how? Jake glanced back to the door where the dark forms lingered, their shadows shifting unnaturally in the bright light as if frustrated by the barrier. We'll take the back alley. Go now. Before she could process the words, he was pushing her and the kids out the back door into the humid night air. The choking fog wrapped around them like a death shroud, the streetlights flickering ominously as they hurried down the alley behind the house. Each step felt laden with dread. Shadows loomed in the corners of her vision, and Lisa could almost hear their insidious whispers winding around her thoughts. Where to go? What to do? Suddenly, a soft sound broke the night, a low chittering noise, like nails on a chalkboard. From the corners of the alley, she glimpsed shapes moving, blending into the darkness, their intentions unclear. Run. Don't look back. Jake hissed as he took her wrist again, dragging her faster. But Lisa stumbled, heart pounding, the horror looming around them. What are they? Why did you don't question now? Just move, he yelled, and she could hear the panic in his voice that mirrored her own. They bolted into the open street, but Lisa's heart turned to stone when she saw it. The van from Jake's nightmare parked at the far end, its headlights flickering on and off, a monstrous beacon in the night. Jake, what do we do? But he didn't respond. His eyes locked onto something past her. The van door slid open, and figures swarmed out, their faces obscured by shadows. Run. Their retreat turned into a desperate sprint down the street, the night thickening with the promise of chase. Lisa's breath came in ragged gasps, and she felt a cold grip around her heart as realization sank in this was only the beginning. What had they stepped into? In the distance, she could hear the whispers closing in. Let us in, Lisa. As they sprinted away from the van, Lisa's mind was a chaotic whirlwind of panic. The faint echoes of those sinister voices crept into her thoughts, intertwining with the thundering beat of her heart. Let us in. They were hunting them, but why? Jake, she gasped, struggling to keep up as he pulled her and the kids through the tangled streets. What are they? We can't just run forever. His eyes were wild, scanning the shadows as if they were alive. It doesn't matter. The more we talk, the more time they have to catch us. Focus. Up ahead, the road turned into a dead end. A steep creek loomed before them, its waters glimmering under the moonlight, tainted by an unnatural sludge. Lisa felt terror rise as she realized there was nowhere left to hide. Do we jump? She asked, desperation clawing at her throat. Yes. Jake shouted, urgency pressing hard against him. It's our only chance. Lisa felt her stomach drop as they rushed towards the creek. The chilling whispers grew louder, merging into a single call. You must let us in on 3, Jake instructed, glancing back as the dark figures loomed closer, creeping towards them with an unsettling confidence. 1, 2. The chilling silence was shattered by an ear-piercing screech, unlike anything she had ever heard. With no time left to think, Lisa grabbed the children's hands tightly, hoisting them up. The ground felt unstable beneath her feet, but they had to leap. 3. They jumped, the world falling away, gravity pulling them down into dread. A cold splash engulfed them as they crashed into the creek, the frigid water biting against their skin, the darkness swirling around them like a suffocating fog. Swim, Jake yelled, breaking the surface, pulling the kids up behind him. His voice echoed, raw and determined. They struggled against the current, a battle against despair and panic. Lisa could barely think. The water was too murky, too cold. Suddenly, from the bank, she heard a low growl, throaty and menacing. The shadows at the water's edge were shifting, transforming into forms that were slowly becoming clearer. They stood there, mere silhouettes, watching with eyes that shone like predatory beasts. Faster, Jake urged again, his eyes darting to the shadows, punctuated by the low chuckle that sent chills racing down her spine. Don't let them see you. They swam against the current, but Lisa could feel the weight of exhaustion settling in. The children's bright eyes flickered with fear, the reality of their situation palpable. How much longer could they hold on? Just when the bank seemed within reach, she felt it a tug, a sharp sensation around her ankle that threatened to pull her down. Mama! Lisa turned, seeing her youngest struggling against the current, panic dancing in those innocent eyes. With a lurching instinct, she grabbed for them. But the water was a turbulent beast now. It wrapped around her, its icy fingers pulling her deeper. No, hold on. Jake lunged, reaching for the child as Lisa's breath caught in her throat. The shadows on the bank were moving. Could they sense their struggle? In that moment of chaos, the whispers returned, echoing from all directions. You can't escape. Lisa felt her grip slipping, darkness closing in as she fought against the water, and the words wrapping around her mind. With a final push, Jake yanked their child free, but not without a price. Swim. Go. He shouted, breathless, as the shadows lunged for him or perhaps for her child. No, Jake! She reached, but his silhouette twisted away into the depths, swallowed by the water as Lisa's world shattered around her. Now, more pursued than ever, she surged toward the bank, scrambling for purchase, her heart screaming with terror. But as she reached the muddy ground, reeling and exhausted, the whispers swelled, spiraling up from the depths behind her, promising horror she couldn't yet comprehend. Let us in, Lisa. What had happened to Jake? What had they truly unleashed? As the moon shone down, revealing the sinister shapes on the bank, Lisa's heart sank. She was left with a choice to confront the shadows alone, or plunge back into the suffocating dark. The night was far from over. The real terror was just beginning. Lisa gasped, collapsing against the muddy bank, her breath coming in ragged, desperate sobs. The chill of the water clung to her skin, but that wasn't the source of her shivering. No, it was the realization that Jake was gone. The shadows lingered on the bank, their whispers mingling with the sounds of the water rushing past. Let us in, let him go, they seemed to taunt, their voices weaving around her mind like smoke, trying to seep inside and take root. Mama! One of the children cried, breaking Lisa from her reverie. She turned her head to see them huddled close, their eyes wide with terror, reflecting the moonlight like twin beacons against the darkness. She fought to keep her own composure, to shield their young hearts from the evil that lurked nearby. Stay close, she urged, her voice barely above a whisper. Every movement felt heavy, every sound punctuated by a monstrous weight. They crept along the creek's edge, the water now a sinister companion in their flight. The shadows shifted, curving and twisting, morphing into grotesque forms that appeared to play tricks with her eyes. For a moment, Lisa thought she caught a glimpse of Jake's face, twisted with anguish beneath the surface. But then the figure vanished, lost in the depths. "Where do we go, Mama?" her eldest asked, his voice trembling like the leaves in the wind. "I don't know, we have to move." The words felt like nails in her throat. Escape felt impossible, with the weight of despair and grief bearing down on her shoulders. Suddenly, a deafening roar echoed from behind. Whatever was in those shadows seemed to sense their fear. Lisa turned to see dark shapes emerging from the gloom, growing larger as they drew closer. "Run!" she shouted, grabbing the children and sprinting along the bank, every ounce of energy drawn from her despair. Each footfall felt like a drumbeat signaling their doom, every breath a reminder of how painfully short their time might be. The whispers began again, swirling around them like a tempest. "You can't run forever, you cannot escape," they taunted, echoing off the trees, mocking her resolve. The children looked up at her, eyes glazed with fear, and for a moment, Lisa faltered. What if the whispers were true? No, she couldn't fall apart now, not when they still had a chance. Up ahead, the trees thinned out, revealing a dilapidated building looming in the darkness, a wreckage of despair, possible shelter, or worse yet, a trap. But it was a place to hide. "Over there," she pointed, not waiting for an answer. The broken structure looked haunted, its windows shattered, gaping like empty eye sockets. Still, it was better than the darkness behind them. "Don't look back." They dashed toward the building, heartbeats drumming in synchrony against the visceral threats that lurked behind them. The shadows seemed to grow tails as they darted forward, inching closer. Inside, the treacherous floor creaked underfoot as they hurried through the door, slamming it shut behind them. Silence enveloped them, but it was a suffocating silence, pregnant with dread. "Mama, what if they find us?" the youngest whimpered. Lisa knelt beside them, brushing the hair from their foreheads. "They won't, I promise." But as the shadows pressed themselves against the flimsy wooden walls, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was already inside. A loud bang echoed from behind them, rattling the door. Lisa's spine froze, dread coursing through her veins. Then a voice, soft yet commanding, crept through the cracks. "Let us in. Lisa, we can help you." The children clutched her tightly, their fear palpable. She swallowed hard, tears of frustration blurring her vision. What were they? What did they want? As Lisa scanned the dim space, the unsettling thought struck her. The monsters outside weren't the only danger. Something darker was awakening within. "Stay quiet," she hissed, but she could feel the children's hearts racing, joining with the sinister rhythm clawing at her mind. But could she truly trust the darkness? As the whispers intensified, she found herself torn between her instincts and the shadowy voices lurking in their wake. Behind that door, something terrible awaited, and it was far from finished with her. What would it take to escape? And what truths remained buried in the veils of night? The door shuttered again, a heavy thud that reverberated through the rotting walls. Lisa's heart raced. The sound wasn't just a warning. It was a promise of what would come next. She clutched her children close, each sharp inhale scraping against her throat. The shadows outside turned into a symphony of low growls and muffled promises, coaxing her to let them in. "Don't be afraid, we can save you, we want to help." The voices coiled tighter, wrapping around her thoughts, making her question the distance that separated safety from doom. "Mama," her youngest whimpered, tears streaming down his dirt-smudged cheeks. "Make them stop." A chilling gust slipped through the cracks of the door, as if the night itself were trying to crawl inside. Lisa bit her lip, resisting the urge to scream, aware that any sound could attract the monsters lurking beyond. "We have to be quiet," she whispered. "We need to stay strong." They clung to each other, waiting for the moment when the thudding would stop or when it wouldn't. The house seemed to breathe around them, its air thickening with dread. Every creak spoke of secrets long buried, of despair woven into the very structure of this haunted ruin. Suddenly, a low whisper materialized from the corner of the room, just beyond Shadow's reach. "Lisa, you can feel it, can't you? They need you, just let them in." Her stomach twisted. The slim, pale figure emerged like mist, its face indistinct, shrouded in an ethereal glow. It reached toward her with fingers that glimmered like threads spun from fear. Lisa stepped back, panic spiking. Her mind raced. What was this creature? What did it want? The children whimpered, pressing against her legs. The thing smiled, a slow, grotesque tilt of lips. You cannot protect them forever. Before she could respond, a shattering crash echoed through the building as something heavy struck the door. Her instincts kicked in. Go, she ordered, ushering her children toward the stairs that spiraled upward, clinging to the drunken hope that the higher ground would keep them safe. They rushed up, the wood creaking beneath their feet, but it felt alive. Glimmering shadows clawed at her ankles, hesitating, holding back as if sensing their fear. She turned when she reached the top step, her heart pounding, aching for the children to hurry. Quickly, into that room. It was a small, cramped space, littered with broken furniture and dust. As they shoved themselves inside, Lisa slammed the door and pressed her back against it. The frantic pounding continued below, a reminder that they were not alone. The voices persisted, swirling around the room like a tempest. Lisa, we can keep you safe. You only need to relinquish what is yours. No. She shook her head, trying to bind her mind, to stay firm against the seduction of soft promises. We will make it through this, she whispered, though the confidence in her voice wavered suddenly. A series of shrill wails erupted from below, harmonizing with the door as something drew near to the top of the stairs. Each cry seemingly more desperate, more haunting than the last. Make it stop, one of the children shrieked, hands gripping her tightly, fear radiating through them. Before Lisa could reply, she felt a presence enter the room, a heavy dread lingering in the corner. The shadows shifted, and a voice echoed from the darkness beneath the bed. A hushed, familiar sound. Mama, help me. It was Jake's voice. Lisa's heart stopped, the weight of longing crashing down. But it was laced with something darker. Was it really him? Jake? She gasped, eyes wide with disbelief. The shadow quivered, then began to draw closer, the shape morphing into something sinuous and grotesque. Let me in. Lisa, we can be a family again. Lisa staggered back, breath hitching in her throat. No, can't be you. You're not him, not anymore. The room grew colder, the shadows swirling madly as the walls began to pulse, reaching out for her. The door rattled violently, and another thunderous strike shuddered through the wood. What was real? What was a trick? Stay close, she whispered again, her voice breaking as panic suffocated her. With a renewed burst of fear, she realized there was no true escape. The house was alive, filled with deception and danger, and something was about to breach the thin barrier of their sanctuary. As soft laughter echoed around her, shadows creeping closer, Lisa's mind raced. Could she truly sacrifice everything for a chance to reclaim what she had lost? Or would the shadows consume them all? What lay waiting behind the door might just decide their fate. The door shuddered violently again, bursting into a frenzy of splintering wood. Lisa pressed her back harder against it, the cold sweat of fear drenching her skin as if the walls were closing in. The wailing shriek outside grew louder, vibrating through the very structure of the house, like a tortured promise of what awaited them. Mama, make it stop. Her youngest child, barely understanding the chaos unfolding around them, whimpered again, eyes filled with terror. Shoo, I need you to be quiet, Lisa hissed, gripping their shoulders tight, willing her love to shield them even as the shadows lurked and writhed. Around them, it felt as if the air grew denser, the oppressive atmosphere gnawing at her resolve. The shape beneath the bed shifted once more, a grotesque mimicry of Jake, but twisted. It smiled with too many teeth, and every tooth glimmered in the dark like shards of glass. Mama, help me, stay away, she shouted, voice piercing the veil of doubt in her mind. You're not him. The laughter danced through the dusty air. But I am. Lisa, don't you want us to be together? You need to let me in. The words settled over her like a thick fog, wrapping around her senses. It was tempting, so achingly tempting. Memories of laughter, joy, and innocence flooded through her like a balm on a wound. but she shook her head violently, pushing back. "You're not my son. You're not here." The shadows surged, twisting like fog, creeping toward her and her trembling children. "Join us. Lisa, you'll never be alone if you just give in no," she screamed, feeling the walls tremble with frustration alongside her heart. In that moment, the pulsing of the house felt like a heartbeat, matching her panic thump-thump, thump-thump. The children clutched her ever tighter. The trusted fortress of their home had been corrupted, a beast in disguise. "What do we do, Mama?" her eldest whispered, eyes darting between the door and the darkened corners of the room. "Just hold onto each other." It was all she could say, a desperate plea as dread coiled tightly around them. Shadows inched closer, the air thickening, suffocating. Then, without warning, the door lurched against her weight, cracking open a sliver. She braced herself against it, urgency curling her fingers into raw knuckles. "Get away from the door!" she shouted, her voice strained. They all fell silent, hearts hammering in their chests as the hairs on the back of Lisa's neck tingled. A heavy silence followed, broken only by the scraping of nails against wood beyond that cracking door. She dared to peer through the gap. What she saw made her breath hitch. Two glowing eyes stared back, hunger lurking behind them, a darkness so profound it swallowed the faint light surrounding it. "Let me in, Lisa." The voice was soft, almost sweet, weaving through the cracks of the door as if coaxing. "Please don't," she begged, her body trembling with an urgency that threatened to shatter her resolve. Behind her, the children curled tighter together, the youngest squeezing his eyes shut, whispering repeated promises to the void. Lisa's heart sank, torn between their ebbing hope and the relentless lure from the darkness. The eyes narrowed, reflecting a torment that ran deeper than the moment. They flickered out of sight, leaving only a heavy silence in their wake. But then she felt it, something shifting beneath them, like the ground was alive with wrath. The walls shook, and Lisa looked up, realizing the house itself was reacting, absorbing their fear, feeding off it with a thunderous crash. The door flew open fully, revealing a corridor of swirling shadows, and in its depths lay more than just darkness, her memories, her regrets, her Jake. "Help me, Mama," came the sibilant whisper again, hauntingly familiar yet twisted, echoing the very fabric of her being. Could she confront it, or would the house swallow her whole? Just then, the shadows surged forward, tendrils reaching out, hunger glistening in their forms as a chilling realization gripped her. The door wasn't just a passage. It was a trap. One way or another, they were being drawn deeper. Into the house's insatiable maw. What awaited them inside the darkness? Would Lisa find salvation, or would she finally give in to the shadows? The tendrils of darkness were tangible, swirling around Lisa's feet like mist creeping up from the depths of a grave. Panic surged through her, a raw, visceral fear that clawed at her throat. She could feel the shadows probing, seeking a way to slip into her heart. The children clutched her tighter, their breath ragged, their small bodies trembling against her. "Stay close," she barked, forcing her body to take a step back. But the shadows pulsed forward, hungry. She could feel someone or something watching from the depths of that dark corridor, a presence that made the hairs on her arms stand on end. "Don't look," her eldest whispered, despair etched across her features. "What if it sees us?" Before Lisa could respond, the whispers grew louder, overlapping in a cacophony of sounds that pushed and pulled at her very being. "Join us, join us." There's no fear here. The words slithered through her mind, wrapping around her thoughts like a serpent. "It's a trick," Lisa shouted, her heart racing faster than the thoughts jumbled up there. "Don't listen to it." The corridor beckoned with a darkness so inviting, so seductive. The memory of Jake wrapped around her like a shroud. She could almost see him laughing, hear his joyous voice echoing through the shadows. But it wasn't him. Not anymore. "Lisa," the distorted voice came again, so sweet it made her skin crawl. "Help me get away," she screamed, her voice cracking. She steeled herself, ready to pull her children back into the flickering light that remained in their small corner of the room. But the shadows gripped her ankles tighter, pulling her down like quicksand. "Mama!" the youngest cried, fear spilling out of him as he stumbled. Lisa felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, but she wouldn't let it crush her. She bent down to scoop him up, cradling him against her chest as she pushed herself against the wall, her breath coming in shallow gasps. The shadows surged again, their edges curling and twisting into something more defined, like fingers reaching out, grasping for all they could take. "Please let us in, Lisa. We can be a family again." Terror seeped into her bones. "No, you aren't real." But the shadows shifted, momentarily revealing flashes of photos floating within smiling faces at a birthday party. Jake blowing out candles, the warmth of family stinging her heart. She fought against it, forcing the images away, fighting for her children. "Come on, we have to go." She turned, ready to flee, but the entrance was gone. The house writhed around them, alive and breathing. The walls pulsed with grotesque memories. The floors throbbed with patient malice. "Help me, Mama," came that familiar voice again, piercing right through her defenses. Desperation clawed at her throat. Where was the way out? Was there even a way out? Whimpering, she reached out into the darkness, desperate to find the edges, something solid against the surging wave of fear. Suddenly, a dreadful crack echoed through the air, reverberating against her bones. A shadow deepened, and from it emerged something with a shape but no substance, hovering and shifting, as if it struggled to become something more. Its eyes glowed a sickly light, and whatever semblance of Jake remained twisted within it raised both its arms, inviting her closer. "Come back to me," Lisa recoiled as the entity lunged, the shadows launching toward her. "No!" she screamed, scrambling back, clutching her children, shielding them. She had to choose. But as the shadow lunged, something stirred deep within her, a flicker of defiance. "You won't take us." With that, a surge of adrenaline shot through her, and she felt a wild strength. They weren't trapped, they could fight. They had to fight. Just then, two hands shot from the dark, grabbing hold of her wrist. "What is it?" whispered her eldest, eyes wide with confusion that it was fear wrapped in determination. But what awaited her beyond this moment of rebellion? Would they prevail against the shadows, or would the house finally claim its prize? The shadows shrank and puffed, recoiling momentarily from her defiance, as if the very force of her will had disrupted their insidious designs. Lisa's heart hammered against her chest, but she fought to keep her breath steady. The darkness was alive, an entity that fed on fear, yet her children needed her strength, needed her to be their beacon in this swirling abyss. "Run!" she cried, her voice slicing through the cacophony of whispers that still clawed at her mind. She pulled her youngest tightly to her chest, urging her eldest to move forward. For a moment, the darkness wavered, retreating just a fraction. But that second of reprieve shattered as the whispers morphed into a guttural growl that vibrated in her bones. "You can't escape," Lisa stumbled, pushing through the thick air that turned sticky against her skin. "This way," she urged, towards a flicker of light in the distance, a thin line shimmering at the edge of the room. It beckoned with promise, yet the deepening shadows folded around her like a living quilt, whispering secrets of despair. "Don't lose hope," her eldest shouted, his voice raw, yet insistent. "We can find a way out." With each step, the walls closed in, pulsating around them with a rhythmic thrum. The children's breaths quickened, matching the frenetic pace of her own. It felt as if the house itself was alive, writhing in agony, pushing against them, clawing at their legs, the floorboards creaking under their weight, as if the house was resisting their escape. Suddenly, Lisa's foot caught on something unseen. She stumbled to the ground, the dark tendrils snaking up around her wrists, pulling her down. "No!" she screamed, panic sparking deeper within her. "Mama!" the youngest wailed, reaching for her with trembling hands. "Hold on!" Lisa cried, tearing at the tendrils as they twisted tighter, sharp edges digging into her skin. "Don't give up!" With a surge of adrenaline, she yanked her arms free, the shadows hissing in protest. "Go!" she shouted, shoving her children ahead, desperate to keep them moving. Out of the corner of her eye, She saw the shadowy figure of Jake wavering in the distance, a tortured look carved into its features, slick with darkness. "Come back. We can be together again," it crooned, and for a chilling moment, her heart faltered. "Stop." The urgency in her voice quivered like a knife's edge. "It's not him. Stay focused." The children hesitated only for a heartbeat before bolting toward the light. It flickered like a dying ember, urging them onward. Lisa followed, pushing her own fear down further, if only for their sake. Yet darkness seemed to pulsate all around, a living predator that wouldn't let them go easily as they neared the shimmering exit. The air grew heavier, thick with the weight of the shadows pressing in all around. A wall of darkness loomed behind them, already coalescing into a mass of howling anguish, almost human, borrowing from the essence of what had been. "Don't look back," Lisa shouted. "Just keep running." With every hurried step, they reached the wavering light, heartbeats ramming within their chests, the shadows reaching, clawing, grasping like fingers of the damned. Just before they broke through, Lisa glanced back. The entity surged forward, a wave of black fury, contorting into shapes, lost souls twisted by their own regrets. In a desperate burst of speed, they plunged through the light, breaking free, or so they thought. Where had it led them? They found themselves in a different room, but the walls were eerily familiar, lined with darkness that felt just as alive, just as hungry. "Is this?" her eldest began, eyes wide, dread flickering across his features. A sound crackled through the thick air, echoing from the corners like thunder. "Help me!" The voice, once again, sweet and beckoning, slithered through the shadows. And at that moment, a nightmare they thought they had escaped crawled into focus once again. They had not escaped. They had only entered another layer of the house's curse. "Let us move," Lisa gritted out, her heart pounding. They had to find another way out before the shadows could swallow them whole again. But the darkness within had a hunger that couldn't be ignored. What did the walls hide now? With a surge of instinct, Lisa tightened her grip on her children and pushed deeper into the room, the air thickening around them like the weight of their fears pressing down. Each heartbeat echoed in her ears, mirrored by the whispers that slithered through the shadows, coaxing her mind, "Come back. Lisa, join us, we can be a family." "No," she gasped, shaking her head and urging the kids forward. Their small hands in hers felt like lifelines tugging her away from the grasp of despair. "We need to find the exit together." As they moved through the murky darkness, fleeting images flickered against the walls, ghostly memories that taunted her with fleeting smiles, laughter, moments long gone. "Focus on me," she urged, trying to ground her children in the present. "We're getting out of here." But as they moved, the shadows rippled like a living entity, closing in on them. "You can't escape, Lisa." It was a chorus, growing bolder as the figures loomed nearer. Lisa felt the cold brush of tendrils whispering against her skin, curling around her ankles like shackles binding her to the memories she fought to forget. "No, stay back," she shouted, the sound echoing around the room, mingling with the cacophony of whispers that begged her to turn back. But she couldn't let their fear seep into her resolve. She had to push through this darkness, for her children's sake. Suddenly, a loud creak reverberated through the old structure, snapping her from her thoughts. A door not far ahead seemed to pulse with the same flickering light they had followed before. "That way," Lisa shouted, a flame of hope ignited within her. They stumbled toward it, shadows grasping, clawing at their heels, but Lisa charged on, adrenaline blazing through her veins. "Faster," she urged, pulling the children with her as they darted toward that glimmer of a way out. The oppressive weight of despair seemed to thrum around them, almost alive with the intent to pull them back, and as they reached the door, a powerful force slammed against the back of her legs, sending her crashing to the ground. "Mom!" They reached for her, panic stark in their eyes, and she fought against the sensation of being swallowed whole. "Hold on," she cried, each word laced with pure determination as she scrambled to her feet. The door was ajar now, a sliver of freedom flickering before her, but the shadows roared in protest, summoning whispers that echoed with chilling familiarity. "We can keep you safe. Lisa let us in. Lisa's breath quickened. Memories danced behind her eyes. The warmth of Jake's laughter, the security of family, all distorted and twisted into something grotesque. "You're not real," she screamed, rallying every ounce of strength she could muster. "You're just shadows." With a fierce shove, she opened the door wide, sunlight flooding the space in stark contrast to the encroaching darkness. A wave of brightness surged forward, pushing against the shadows like a cleansing breath. Her children stood at her side, terror etched on their faces, but resolve igniting in their eyes. "Go," she shouted, urgency slicing through the air. They rushed through the opening, and the moment they stepped into the daylight, the shadows recoiled, hissing like steam escaping a boiling pot. But as Lisa pulled the door shut behind them with a finality that stirred her very core, she turned, seeing the remnants of what had pursued them slip away into the gloom, losing their grip on her sanity. "We made it," she whispered, breathless. They were outside, free for now. She glanced around, drinking in the familiar sights of their small town, the sun illuminating every corner with a hopeful glow. But inside, the gravity of what had occurred throbbed like a wound that wouldn't heal. Jake was still out there, lost among the shadows. "We have to go back," she whispered, the weight of her grief crushing her chest. "I can't leave him, Mom," her eldest whispered, tears brimming in his eyes. What if he's not him anymore?" Lisa hesitated, caught between two worlds, one, a reality steeped in every fear she could name, and another, a desperate hope, that clung like a flickering candle in the lone corner of a dark room. "I want to stop looking," she vowed, gripping her children tightly. "We will find a way to bring him home." In that moment, she understood the truth: light and shadow could not exist without the other. They were bound to each other eternally. And as they walked away from the shadows that skulked at the edge of their small town, she knew she had to face both depths and heights, to confront the darkness still lurking within, with courage ignited in her heart like the dawn that broke before them. Lisa turned to her children, belief shining in her eyes. "Together, we can't just face the dark, we can make it through, but we must not forget. We have to be brave." And that was the promise, the vow they would carry forward into whatever awaited them beyond the veil of night. So here's what you need to do right now: subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And don't hold back, flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. I want to hear your thoughts. And most importantly, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Join this community. We're just getting started.